Hello, Stephen. How are you?
I am great. Happy that the rains have finally arrived. So, Savannah is starting to look nice and green. Where I live, the hills are all green, and it's following everything that it's supposed to follow. As I say, June never reached without rain, and this year, 2026, is absolutely no different. Of course, when you compare what we are going through or went through with the dry season, have you been following what is happening in Europe with the temperatures?
No, tell me what's happening.
41 degrees in Paris. Okay. Imagine that 41 degrees in Paris. They've had to do all kinds of things to try and negate the effect of these ridiculously high temperatures. So I don't know if that is going to be the norm. I do not know how people are going to be live in temperate climates. I stay right here on my little tropical rocker.
All right. And you always amaze me when I ask you, how are you? And you talk about the temperature, you talk about how green it is, you talk about the rain, all those kinds of things. Because oftentimes my position is, oh my goodness, this country is doing so badly. That's my focus.
And I've been speaking to people all over the knees, in all, whether it is in the grocery, whether it is, I don't know, walking on the road, wherever. And people still have the hope for this country. Yeah? I have not heard one person, yet they will disagree with certain things that are happening, but I haven't heard one single person say, see this nonsense, I done. I applying tomorrow and I gone. You know, I don't think we've seen that the exodus from previous decades, the way where we saw things happening. So I don't know. I mean, yes, it's not by any means is not perfect, and I think people will also look to compare Trinidad to other very non-perfect territories, and I mean the Great North and the northern climes elsewhere in the world, they are having all kinds of issues. So I think for me, our issues are not so insurmountable by any means. Okay, 99% of our issues are all made by us, and if we want to fix it, well, we have to correct it. So that's yeah, that's how I view things. Not it might sound like a simplistic kind of way. Maybe it is, but maybe that's what we need: simplicity in dealing with things, rather than trying to find all kinds of philosophies and all kind of things to deal with simple things that we have going on here, you know? So,
How would you feel if the the government says to you, but the simplicity is what we have as a state
well, if it is so simple, why can't
it can't work because people are not following the instructions.
we
The state of emergency is easy.
follow the international news quite regularly because it is important for our economy, for everything, to see where other countries going. And there are very, very few countries I would say that people say, well, we're real happy where we are. We ain't going anywhere. And yeah, and it's we have to make it. I say we need to just do the very simple things, and this place, this island nation, will just be booming by by doing it the most simple way, rather than a whole convoluted mess. All right, which is typically what we attempt to do. So let's wait and see.
Give me an example of this convoluted mess that you just talked about.
Well, I'm following this march, no march, demonstration, no demonstration, SOE, no gathering, gathering. And, I look at that and I say, how simple is it to really and truly determine what is allowed and what is not being allowed? Okay? You put 10,000 people on the streets in Faizabad, and that is allowed. Okay? You have trade unions from all over. I was very glad to see it because a vibrant trade union is a very good thing, unbeknownst to many people. They think a trade union is just a nuisance. All right, many people think that trade union is a very good thing to have. All right, and and I look at that tomorrow. Tomorrow is Borrow Day in Port of Spain. where they're going to have police marching and this and that, and the trooping of the colors and the handing over of the flag and all the tentenelle that goes with a celebration like that. Recently, there was Borough Day down in Point Fortin, and I don't believe Borough Day was any different to previous Borough Days when we did not have a state of emergency. So there are things like that that you see happening. You see the gatherings. Nobody has said that, well, look, they'll be bringing back the Independence Day parade. That is being determined. All right. So all the people lining all the people in the savannah, in the bleachers on the eastern end of the savannah, watching the parade. Then they're lining the street, going down to they believe Park Street, and then they cross over, and then they come down Arapita Avenue, and all of that are hordes, thousands of people waiting to see and to be part of the celebration. So what I don't understand is who has determined what is a gathering and what kind of gathering. So if you're drinking rum and throwing feta and lime in and music blasting, that's okay. We're good with that. All right. If it is a protest march, well, depending on what you're protesting against, make sure you're not protesting against me. All right, because that is not going to be allowed. Okay. If it is a union march, that is okay. But if I was to walk down the street with a jersey that not offensive, but had my views on something printed on the jersey regarding a particular office in Trinidad, does that mean then that I would be in violation of the conditions that the state of emergency has been declared under? I don't know, and I think for innocent people who need to vent and need to get something off their back, and they need to be public about it, people are saying, so what is the deal? Is that right, wrong, or indifferent? Because you have a set of right going on one side with thousands of people gathering. Then you have a wrong with a maxi taxi of people who are talking about something else, okay? And then you have ministers, cabinet ministers being involved in some of these marches. Now, is it then that the cabinet ministers involved in the marches, because there's discussions going on with the officialdom, that it's okay? So you see, that is the conundrum, where what is okay, what is allowed, what is not allowed, under what conditions. I think that the government, the officialdom, has to come straight with people. And you have to identify what is allowed, what is not going to be allowed, what is totally unacceptable. And I think that until that happens, we are going to see all this sporadic arresting and rearresting and arresting after the rearrest, and just this constant battle going on. And I think it is totally uncalled for. I think people in this country are going to realize that there's a little high-handedness happening here, and therefore it needs to be dealt with. Somebody needs to open their mouth. Somebody in the officialdom needs to open their mouth and say what it is. Because you cannot have something happening that could only be for people of a certain height or dressed in a certain way. Okay? And then the balance of people could go and do what they want. You can't run a country like that. That is wrong. Okay? That is discrimination at the highest order. And I don't think that the country, this country has gone through too much. Butler riots, 1970, 1990. I mean, this country can go through joke problems, all kinds of stuff have happened to this country. Okay? And this day and age in 2026, we bring in discrimination back into the country. And discrimination is not black against white. Okay? That people might think that is the only issue with discrimination. No, you're discriminating against the rights of the citizen in one hand. Say between 8 and 12 in the morning, you're discriminating against a certain group of people. 1 minute past 12 until 4 o'clock in the evening, A next set of people doing whatever, that's fine. That's okay. What is the difference? Who is to know what is the difference? And that is my concern.
And that's a serious concern about discrimination and who really are we objecting to? Why are we objecting to certain people? And there was a recent article in a newspaper, a recent report in a newspaper about that Aboud guy. You remember it?
Yes, that is Mr. Modalive Aboud.
Yes, Mr. Modalive Aboud.
5 years ago, we had COVID. 5 years ago, there was an instance um, of protests for whatever reason. It is 5 years ago, I can't remember that. Somebody must have picked up a file and said, hey, look, next week, if we don't do anything this week, next week, that is that gone, huh? We can't do anything. It's past the statutory requirement and what have you. And they bring it back up. I mean, for what? The gentleman concerned has been vocal in his views about law and order, about certain things for decades. This is not, this fella ain't just fall out of a tree somewhere and decide he's going to go and protest, okay? This person, this individual has been doing that for the longest while. He's been successful in some things and maybe less successful in other things, all right? And it's just like the labor movement. You have those, the heads of the trade union movement. When last they sit down and went for tea with somebody, they don't do that. They normally getting on, okay, demanding, shutting down, doing all of these things. That is how the labor movement operates, okay? And here it is now, because the negotiations are going on, I believe, with the officialdom, bam, everybody get quiet. Okay, that's their prerogative. That is their decision to do what they want to do. But that is when you're dealing with organized labor. What about non-organized labor, like the two of us? Okay, the only thing I am in Trinidad is a citizen of this country, born and bred here. That's my only claim to fame is that. Does that tell me then that I am not allowed? I don't have a voice. I can't, again, wear my jersey and walk down the street without being harassed? I don't know. I mean, you tell me. I don't know how this thing's supposed to work.
My view is that if you are not supportive of whoever is the current administration, then anything you do, they will hold it against you. My view is that if you're not, for instance, if you're not part of a labor movement that seems to be participating with whoever the administration is, you're in trouble. So my view is that there isn't equity. It is, if we know you, if we agree with you, then that's okay. If we don't, then there's a problem. Because here's the example that is bothering me these days. I keep hearing us talking about 1%. And when we talk about 1%, we seem to be talking about that in a racial way, not in terms of people who have money, persons who are in charge of the economy, who have the biggest set of money. If that is what we were talking about, that would not be a racial area, because several races have people who are participating in that 1%. So now we're talking about 1%. We're trying to talk about it in a racial way, and we're using a couple of the 1% representatives and putting them in trouble. And that to me is just unfortunate. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I would use a stronger word than unfortunate. I think that is, you cannot discriminate. Our Constitution, it says it in very specifically, you cannot discriminate against anyone in this country, okay? For class, for creed, for race, for standing where you are in the society, that is of no issue, okay? None whatsoever. And here it is that I see that, and I agree with you. This picking and choosing who you're going to deal with, because to me, what happened on Labor Day, I don't know, you could have gone and lock up all the trade union leaders.
But you didn't. You were very specific.
You discriminated against people in that march. Okay? And I am very sorry. That is not what we are about as a people. Okay? If the person or persons were pelting stone and doing all kind, of course you arrest the people for that, or being violent, or preaching any violence or anything like that. Of course you deal with that. Okay? I mean, Denise, I've said it many, many times. When we, the Keith Noel Committee, did the Death March in 2005, 5 weeks, I personally went and made the application 5 weeks in advance of the day of the march, and I think 22nd of October, 2005. 5 weeks. And we going along, huh? We promoting this march, we advertising, we doing whatever we had to do to be able to make this march a success, not knowing what was going to happen on the day. Okay? 3 o'clock the Friday afternoon, the march starts at 9 o'clock, 9:30 on the Saturday morning. 3 o'clock Friday afternoon, I get a call from, I don't know, whichever police officer. You're requested to attend. Hey, man, you're requested to attend a meeting. I might have been in Tobago at 3:30 this afternoon in Serpentine Road. That's when they had the old police station in Serpentine Road. Okay? I'm requested to be there for 3:30. So, well, that nice. I mean, I was in Port of Spain. So I could be there for 3:30. You call me at 3 o'clock and tell me 3:30 is the time. Anyway, so I went to the people meeting. Okay? When I opened the door, there was a room full of uniformed police officers of various ranks, not constables. Okay? This is khaki police. Okay? So there was a certain rank. The commissioner was not there, but I believe it was the deputy commissioner, one of the deputy commissioners that was there. Okay? That is when they issue my permit. Take you 5 weeks? What is that? If a trade union leader from the oil field or from the bus company, from the whoever, PSA, whoever, if a trade union leader had filed that application, when were they going to give them the permission to march? So if my phone was dead that afternoon, okay, if this cell system had broken down, where you finding Stephen Cadiz to come and hear what the deal is and to get his certificate to march? Okay, and the next morning we end up in Independence Square, where they say, well, the march is not the march is not approved, so you can't have a march. And I end up with 10,000, 15,000 people in Independence Square. Who is going to be held responsible for that? I could tell you, I could guess who would be held responsible for that. And it would not be anybody in a khaki uniform. Okay? That would be my responsibility. Where it is that I went through every single thing that had to be done. All the filing, this constant calling, writing. We need to get our permit. We need to get our permit. So what position? And it's serious. If I had gone there and all these people ready to march, who they going to arrest me for organizing an illegal march? When you want to add 1 and 2 and get 9 and 15 and all kind of thing, okay, that is what happens. What was the issue? Was it they against Cadiz? They against because the Keith Noel Committee was asking questions about the security of our country and crime or what have you? You didn't like what was being said? I don't know. What was the purpose of not issuing that permit? So when they say you didn't get a permit, you were not issued a permit to march, I could tell you from my own personal history, that and nothing is the same thing. Because I should be able to go into a police station and say, this is the deal, this is the day, the time, this is the purpose of the march, this is what we expect, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Yes or no? What is the discussion for? What you having a discussion about? Cadiz go have what is Cadiz? But Cadiz is not a union leader. How he reached where he reached. So all I'm saying is all all are not equal in this country when it comes to certain things. By no means. And that's that's my simple take on this thing. We are not all equal.
And Stephen, as we come to an end, how are we going to fix this if equality does not exist in our country? And if we are saying that for you to get what you want to get, or for you to achieve what you want to achieve, you have to have the right kind of contact. If that's what we're saying, then how do we fix that?
Well, we have to start thinking seriously about the governance of the country. That is all it is. And when people come and they dress up and they dress up issues and they dress up the answers to how we're dealing with things, and you sit down and it makes no sense, we have to call them in on that. And stop this nonsense of because it's my people, because it's my thing, it's my color jersey, is this, is that, or that, they can't do any wrong. No. Denise, this country again, this country, when I wake up in the morning, is a blessed country. Okay? One of the issues of this country is the governance of the country. The climate working perfect, we're not like Paris. Okay? You see, the sun, the rain, the this, the that, all of that happens and it falls into line. Okay? The one thing that goes all over the place depending on who is the politics. And that is why everything seems to stop and start over again. And then we take our next 5 years and butt out. One gone, our next one coming, our next 5 years to fix everything. And by the time you look out your turnaround, it's 20 years and we still can't get it working.
And as we come to an end, Stephen, thank you very much for
I'm
sharing
not
with
finished,
us.
I'm not finished,
I know you're not finished, Stephen, but I am finished. So as we come to an end, thank you very much for commenting about the inequalities that exist and the fact that we need to redefine, we need to work through our country in order for it to be better. And I look forward to my generation, and you are part of my generation, improving this country before we say goodbye. So what's your final statement, Stephen?
Final statement is just that. Let us get serious about what we are doing. I mean, we are way overdue on doing that, huh? And stop the very foolish, childish kind of politics that this country practices. Let us get very serious about what has to happen. Forget who's doing it and how they're doing it or whatever. Let us just understand we need to get serious about it.
Thank you very much, and see you next Wednesday. All the
Next
best.
time. Yes, thank you.
Bye.